now. Great. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this session from Stories from the Frontline. I have the pleasure of hosting this afternoon Ricky Hind, one good old friend and partner of Axonify over many, many years. Ricky, you're very welcome to this session. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for giving me this opportunity just to let you guys know what we've been up to here in sunny South Africa over the past 6 months or so. It's been, I'm sure for all of you guys out there, it's been a hell of a ride with the pandemic and the lockdowns over the past couple of months.
Indeed, quite an interesting time, I would say. So just a quick introduction. You are the Learning and Development Senior Manager for Axonify. Well, you look after Axonify, sorry, within SLC. So probably let's, going to frame this conversation around the communication and engagement as cornerstones of your roaring success. I have to say that probably your numbers are one of the best ones I've seen in my tenure in Axonify. So I would really like for you to share some of those stories of success and strategies with our audience today. Just to remind you all, we are in chat, so in case you want to send a question over to Ricky or myself, please feel free to do so over the chat that's open now. So just a little bit of a recap, Ricky, as I started, just to frame where is SLC coming from, right? So you started your business as a disruptor approach. You have constantly grown your customer base, and you have represented, your sole presence in the market has represented a lot of savings for the customer overall South Africa. So not only directly to your customers, but to the mobile customer in general. So how does this disruptor approach permeated into your culture? So how do you reflect that in the people on the front line and the stores? How do you do that?
Well, I think just to begin, I just need to put SLC or place SLC into perspective. SLC was the third entrant into the mobile or cellular market in South Africa. We came up against two very, very strong and powerful established networks within South Africa, namely Vodacom and MTN. And what I've really enjoyed about working with SLC during the time that I've worked there is the fact that, we lean and mean. If you have a look at Vodacom and MTN, in order for them to launch a product, it's a hell of a process. And it does take them anywhere between 1 to 3 months before they can actually get a product out there that's been tested on their network, etc., etc. What really does make SLC unique, as I've already said, is that we are lean and mean. If we see a gap in the market, we can leverage on that gap, and we can literally launch that product within a week or two. So we've obviously used Axonify incredibly successfully because we don't obviously have the staff or the training team to actually go out there and do classroom training to the whole of South Africa. As you know, South Africa is incredibly vast. So we've essentially run the training team with 20 trainers. They've all been regionally based, but what Axonify has really allowed us to do is it's allowed us to be lean and mean, where the training department was normally the Achilles heel in the past, because it's taken the guys a lot of time to get out there and do the training, do the classroom training, do the assessments, do the mop-up sessions, etc., etc. What Axonify has allowed us to do is it's allowed us to really go and be the disruptor that we have become in the market. So being the third entrant, I think we're the company that always goes out there and tries new things, and we're not too scared of a challenge.
I think that's great news, especially when you, as you were saying, um, facing the big ones, the traditional ones, the people
Yeah,
with deep pockets. You have to be very ingenious, very creative, and very bold as well. And that's definitely something
absolutely.
that we always like to see and partner with, like
Yeah.
courage and you know,
And that's certainly one of the
decisiveness.
reasons why I've enjoyed working at Cell-C for the length of time that I have. And yeah, Axonify has played a critical component in our success, especially from a training department perspective.
Great to hear. So one of the reasons why I wanted you guys to come and talk to a wider audience is that you know that you have been very successful with the communication strategy and tying it into an overall success strategy, you know, engagement, participation, but the communication has been a cornerstone. So I suppose
Yeah.
just to start, you know, to understand the journey, when did you first realize that the power of communications through Axonify? What prompted you to use it in the first place?
Well, I think that's it's just a fairly easy question to answer, Alex. You know, the broadcast message for us, especially in a industry that's changing as fast as our industry changes, we've leveraged on broadcast messaging from day one. I think that's it's been part of our success. You know, if the price of an SMS changes or the price of a WhatsApp bundle, which it inevitably does in the marketplace, you know, it's very easy for us to take that communication, take the broadcast message, and go and broadcast that price change over all 2,000 of our current licensed users. So I would say from day one, it's been an incredibly successful tool.
Great, and we've seen it, right? You pretty much taken and embraced the communication features of Axonify, not only to communicate commercial strategies, right, which
Yeah.
is probably the most immediate use case, but also, you know, well-being, health and safety, social policies, things like that. Um, could you please recall one or two instances where you really saw, like, straight away that the message was being followed after being disseminated through Axonify?
Well, you know, as I've already mentioned, I think the big thing for us is it makes us lean and mean and makes us nimble. So, to give you one example, is pretty difficult. I think what's really been successful, you know, over the COVID period, is having the ability to communicate any changes. You know, we've all been through various lockdowns from level 5. We were lucky enough last week, Monday, to be dropped down to level 1, which is a hell of a pat in our back. So we've used broadcast message to really just um, tell people what the differences were. So what you can do with level 5, what you can do with level 4, what you can do with level 3, etc., etc. You know, especially from our store staff or our customer facing staff. You know, they've gone through a torrid time. You know, having to be in and having to be customer facing and having to wear masks and having to social distance. So I think we've used it incredibly successful just to remind people on a daily basis what to do and how to do it. You know, I think people get very, very worked up. They're very, very nervous with regards to, you know, not really getting the pandemic or getting COVID. So, you know, just the constant reminders of what to do and how to do it. I think that's been incredibly successful for us, over and above the standard uses for the broadcast messaging.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, you know, link us in. And I was going to ask. So great that you jumped into it. You know, the value of communication in a pandemic scenario, right? So you experienced, as
Yeah.
you say, as you said, lockdowns at the sparse population, not everyone having an email address, for example, readily available, or not being, you know, able to use it for work purposes. You know, sometimes telephone may or may not serve the purpose. So I suppose the fact that the communications dynamics were already well embedded into the day-to-day of your staff, has it made it incredibly easy for Axonify just to be the natural um, way of communication, I suppose, when nobody could effectively talk to each other in person.
Absolutely. So I think just further, I think the pandemic's quite an easy one to talk about. But what Cellc's done exceptionally well is that we run a special every Friday called Fantastic Friday. And there are specials on that Friday. You need to go into the store and you need to actually purchase a device on that Friday. So on a Thursday night, we load all of the specials and push that through the broadcast messages as well. So, it's not only used for price changes, it hasn't only used for pandemics, but we've used it for soft skills. We've been incredibly successful. And the broadcast message has really been a cornerstone to the success of Axonify within Cellc.
Absolutely. And then, those some of the figures that we have seen from the beginning of the year till today, right? And we've been working with a number of data sets quite recently. So this is, I suppose, quite familiar for us, but for the benefit of the audience, I mean, broadcast messages seen over 83,000 times over a sort of almost 2,000 strong workforce is incredible.
Well,
85%. Yeah.
I was just about to, sorry to interrupt you. I'm just about to say, have a look at these messages, or have a look at these numbers, audience, with bear in mind that we only have 2,000 active users on Axonify. Of which of those, 80% are store staff, 20% are customer care. So 83,000 with 2,000 users in a 7 or an 8 month period. You're right. Those figures are phenomenal.
Yeah, and then you can guarantee that, by making a healthy usage of the platform and its communication features, 85% of unique views for your broadcast messages. I mean, in average, 85% of your messages are seen by your entire crossforce. That's incredible. That's really, really healthy. But again, it's not only the messaging. We see that people naturally come onto the platform. 92% of your frontline comes over 20 times a month to the platform, right? They consume the daily training, they consume their extra training. Almost 3 million questions answered since January. And again, on our sort of 2,000 strong staff, it is remarkable. So would you like to tell us a bit more about the overall strategies that you put in place to make Axonify such a vital tool for your business?
Well, I think we had to sit down and we had to ask some difficult questions of ourselves. And I think the first difficult question to ask, and I pose this to the audience as well, what percentage of your staff actually read communiques? So you send out an email communique. How do you know that that's actually been read? How do you know how much time somebody has spent reading that communique? What the broadcast message platform allows us to do, it allows us to track all of those things. So if somebody does potentially make a mistake from a pricing perspective, we use the Axonify platform to go back and say, well, why did you make that mistake? All the information was readily available to you. We can then go back and say, well, you spent 27 seconds reading that broadcast message. We know for a fact that you didn't actually take that broadcast message in. You didn't absorb it and you didn't understand it. It was literally a tick box exercise. And I think that's one of the key features that we use. But I think, we've built Axonify into our learning culture within Cellc. Axonify is built into KDIs. They're built into performance matrices. We have the assessments that we run once a month. That's built into KDs. or key deliverables. You know, the number of times that you log on, that's built into key deliverables as well. So I think from our perspective, we've built it into, it's almost become the part of Cellc's culture. And I think lastly, 2.9 million questions answered since January between 2,000 people. I mean, that's some staggering maths. Those are staggering figures. But what we did is when we went into the hard lockdown, we made a decision that we were going to double the number of questions sent to store staff or Axonify users on a daily basis. So originally we were asking between 5 and 10 questions per day. We doubled it to 20. So that in there gives us the numbers that that you're currently seeing. You know, we were able to zero rate the platform, so it wasn't costing anybody any money to log on and keep informed. And I think the key thing, you know, we spent nearly 7 weeks at home before we opened things up. And as you know, and as the audience knows, you know, sitting down for 7 weeks and not using your brain, you forget things quite quickly. So we used Axonify incredibly successfully. By doubling the questions, we doubled the number of assessments that we, or the number of exams that we put out. We doubled that to 2 a month. And I think the key thing there is that we had the traction. It just shows us that that our guys are really keen. I think one last thing is that we also changed the KDs. So as much as I say that the guys are keen to learn and you know they're keen to go through the content, the KDs were also changed just to ensure that everybody was utilizing their time effectively.
Absolutely. No, great insights. And I should say, I suppose that the journey starts well before using the platforms, like understanding, asking the hard questions, as you say, making the right decisions and bringing the right tools into your workflow so that ultimately over time you see results such as the ones that you've had, which again are very impressive. And I'm sure that several of the members of the audience will be equally impressed. So we're reaching just the top of the hour now. Thank you very much, Ricky, again for your time. I think that there's going to be a number of questions from the audience. Anything else you would like to share with us before handing over to them?
Well, I just want to say hi to everybody around the world. You know, I have had the opportunity of meeting a lot of you. Unfortunately, we can't meet face to face this time, but as Alex says, I'm more than happy to sit and answer whatever questions you have. I'm more than happy to give out all of my details so that if you do want to catch up one-on-one over a phone call or over a Zoom call or over Teams or whatever platform you guys would like to, I'm always available. I'm always available to give you some of the insight that we've got walking this journey with Axonify over the past 5 years. So thank you all. Thank you for taking the time to listen. It's truly been an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much, Ricky. We were very happy that you took the time to speak to us, and I'm sure that your offer will be taken by several members of the audience. Your experience and your insights will be very valuable. Thank you so much again, and for everybody else, thank you for joining as well, and enjoy the rest of Axonicom. Thank you so much.
Enjoy it, guys. Thank you. Thanks for your time.